Guys, good to have Hogan Gidley back. Hogan, good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Sonny Joy Nelson, you were
Yes.
afraid if you're watching on the video version of this, Sonny was afraid she was not camera ready.
She's not.
But
She's
I think you look
Sonny Joy Nelson is always camera ready.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Thank
Fact
you.
check true.
You know, I'm
same
struggling.
same with Hogan Gidley. Hogan Gidley, you can get him
Also-
out of bed at 2:30 in the morning, and he'll do a TV hit for you.
Always ready.
No problem.
Hey, but at least I get to rep my Ultra MAGA hat. I love
Is
it.
your microphone not working, Sonny?
That's a whole other story. So I got my.
All right. Well, let's just get to it because this is the Line Drive podcast. All right. So the big news this week, not really, but it is some news this week, is this debate that Ron DeSantis has had with Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. What, Hogan? What do you make of this? What is exactly the point of this?
Okay, a couple things. Well, first of all, let me just tell the audience out there that I have been coughing. So I've got lozenges in my mouth, so you'll be hear that clanging around. So forgive that. But got to play hurt, Tim. You know
that's true. Go ahead and rub some dirt in it and get out there.
That's right. That's exactly right. Okay, so it's interesting because obviously Gavin Newsom is running an in case of emergency break glass campaign. So if Joe Biden falls politically or metaphorically or literally, he can be there to kind of pick up the pieces and say, look, I've already been running. Look at this debate I did. I can push the radical left agenda better than anybody. For DeSantis, it's obviously one of those situations where he's just trying to gain traction, trying to just show people who he is and what he could be if he were president, if he were the nominee. I don't know that it changes anything at all. It reminds me of in those Fox debates where you had a kids table, an undercard. So you had the top candidates doing their thing, and then the second tier candidates doing their thing. And then this one, for some reason, are people who think they are the nominee or want to be it's kind of weird. But what's on trial here is Republican governance versus Democrat governance, America First policies versus America Last policies. And so you're going to hear them talk about my state's getting more of your people are leaving your state, blah, blah, blah. But it's going to be more about the record of success versus a record of failure in California. And Gavin Newsom doing whatever he can to kind of spin out of that and say, no, how great they are, how wonderful California is. So it's going to be kind of I'd say a pseudo commercial for each state. And of course, for each candidate, even though Gavin Newsom isn't one right now. So I don't know what to think of it other than, if you're Ron DeSantis, what do you have to lose, right? You're down 50 points. You might as well throw a Hail Mary and see if anything sticks. He's putting all of his eggs, obviously, in the Iowa basket. And I don't know if this helps, but, we'll see.
I also think this shows, and for DeSantis, him saying, oh, look at me. I'm actually going out and debating one of the hardest people I can think of to debate. I'm not afraid, since he's not having the opportunity to debate President Trump. I think this is yet another campaign ploy for him, although, like you said, What does he have to lose? He's so far down in the polls that no matter who he debates is not going to bring him up.
Yeah, it's funny.
Sure.
Whether it's Nikki Haley or Vivek or Gavin Newsom, he's still really far down.
Yeah, I mean, he is. I mean, the rest of the field has fallen into single digits in some polls. There's not a single person in double digits other than Donald Trump in some of these polls. In other ones, DeSantis is still up in the teens somewhere. But obviously, this is a campaign strategy. It's like you, Hogan, said, and Sonny, this is it's lining up conservatism and see how it stacks up against liberalism, right? I think the three of us here agree that conservatism wins all day long.
Yeah.
Whether it's DeSantis's brand of conservatism, the Trump brand, or just like run-of-the-mill Capitol Hill conservatism. I don't know how otherwise to mainstream conservatism, I guess you would say. I think that side wins all day long. What this actually tangibly accomplishes for the DeSantis campaign, I can't really say that I can see much in the way that what does it actually achieve. And I think
sound bites.
It does achieve sound bites. It carries some risk because I think, anytime you go into a debate with anybody, there's always the chance that you could make a mistake of some kind. So it carries risk for DeSantis, who is actively engaged, by the way, in running for president, while Gavin Newsom is not technically. But both of these guys have tried their hand at looking like leaders on the world stage. Remember, DeSantis went to Japan and did a tour of Japan while he was in the middle of his book tour as well, kind of like acting like a visiting head of state for some reason. That was around the beginning of the year, at the end of 2022 or beginning of 2023. And Gavin Newsom just got back from China.
Yeah.
Again, I guess he's had to go visit his supervisors over there. That's the way I would put it. They had an all hands meeting, and Gavin had to report to his superiors over there in Beijing. But I don't know what the point of it really is, other than, and you know how much prep work, don't you imagine, Hogan, that DeSantis and team went through a ton of prep work over this?
I don't know a ton of prep work, but they definitely took time off the trail to do some of this, not to mention the resources needed to get it done. You're right, Tim. I don't know what it accomplishes. Again, I do think DeSantis could have a couple good stingers, and then he uses that in an ad campaign of some kind to say, look at me, I'm the one willing to do the debate, like Sonny said. But we're getting close to Iowa, and Iowa's a turnout exercise. Who do you have to go out there and turn out for you? And DeSantis and his team think they are very confident in the state of Iowa right now. Iowa has picked, 7 of the last maybe 12 eventual nominees, where South Carolina has picked 11 of the last 12. So once we get past Iowa, if DeSantis doesn't win that, he's going to have some serious trouble. If he finishes third behind Nikki, he's for sure done. Although I don't think he will, because Nikki spent no time there. She'll get that Kasich vote, that 10 or 15% of self-loathing, I hate Republican base voter vote in Iowa. There are not many, but she'll get those. And then we go to New Hampshire. Trump wins New Hampshire, and Trump's going to beat Nikki in South Carolina. Then it's just over. Yeah. So, and again, all this could change with some earth-shattering news or some earth-shattering court case. But keeping things as they are now, Trump's walking to this nomination, and quite frankly, I would argue he deserves it.
Oh, yeah. Well, can I add in here before we change the subject? I know I've said this before. I love debates. And even if this does not accomplish anything for the DeSantis campaign, for Gavin Newsom, if he's lining up for the next presidential election, whatever his ploy is in doing this, I like that a Republican, hardcore Democrat are debating. I'd like for the ideas to go up against each other because, like you were saying, Tim, we're going to see that conservative policies work, whereas liberal policies do not work. And I think, I hope at least, that DeSantis will bring a lot of good stats that tout that point.
He will, and he'll go hard on Gavin Newsom in the state of California, what they did to San Francisco, the crime, the drugs. He will absolutely go hardcore there, and he should. Gavin Newsom, as adept of a politician as he is, I think he doesn't have the receipts. He doesn't have successes to point to. Now, he'll point to some that really don't mean anything, or it'll be one of those deals that once you kind of dig past the surface, you're going to realize it's a bunch of junk. But this is going to be something the American people, largely on the right, because it's a Fox News production, will see and go, yeah, I could see this guy, taking over Joe Biden's spot as the radical left standard bearer, and DeSantis is fine if there's some catastrophic thing happens with the Trump campaign, but I don't see that happening. And so, like you said, Tim, I don't know what they get out of it other than some sound bites and some ways to try and get donors back on their side that seem to be going to Nikki all of a sudden.
Yeah, and I don't think there's really I hate to sound like a downer and be one-sided on this, but I don't see any real risk for Newsom in participating in this. Like, he's not a candidate.
No risk.
Like, technically, officially not a candidate. I think that Joe Biden will probably be the Democrat nominee because if he wants it, it's his. He's the incumbent president, and there's no indication at all that he's even thinking about not running, as far as I can tell. So unless something drastic happens on that side, Biden's going to be the nominee for the Democrats. And unless something drastic happens on the Republican side, it's going to be Trump. But DeSantis is still in the race. So to me, I think this it carries more risk than DeSantis than for Newsom. Let me just put it that way. Did you guys see? I texted it to you. Did you read the statement that the Trump campaign put out before the debate?
No.
It's from Stephen Chung, who we all three of us
know and love. Yep, sure,
good friend. This is the third Trump campaign that Stephen has been on. Anyway, wow. The statement. Can you believe that? 2016, 2020, and 2024. I only got one of those, the one in the middle.
I'm reading it now.
Yeah, so here it is. The title is "Kiss of Death." Ron DeSantis is thirsty AF, which is Sonny. Let me help you with that. That's internet slang. It means thirsty as F.
F-U.
Thank you, Tim.
Yes.
Oh, right. Thank you, Hogan.
You understand
Thanks for
that?
spelling it out for me.
So it says "Kiss of Death." Ron DeSantis is thirsty AF. And here's the statement. Ron DeSanctimonious, I'm just going to do the first paragraph because it's long. Ron DeSantis is acting more like a thirsty, third-rate, OnlyFans wannabe model than an actual presidential candidate. Instead of actually campaigning and trying to turn around his dismal poll numbers, DeSantis is now so desperate for attention that he's debating a grade A loser like Gavin Newsom. Well, this next sentence really says something too. So I'll read it. At the debate, Ron will flail his arms and bobble his head wildly, looking more like a San Francisco crackhead than the governor of Florida. This isn't a prediction; it's a spoiler. So some
straight fire right there.
Hot takes from Stephen Chung.
Yes, straight fire.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're trying to get in the stories. I think with a statement like that, they'll manage to find it.
I think a sentence or two may make it in there.
Yeah, they might.
It may even be a question tonight too, but I don't think so. Coming from Sean, I don't think he'll ask a question about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, OnlyFans. That got me.
A thirsty third-rate OnlyFans wannabe model. OnlyFans wannabe.
I did like the first sentence in the third graph, which says, "Hopefully for Ron, it's a seated debate." So he won't have to mash his foot into his high heels to look taller.
Oh, my gosh.
Poor guy.
I mean, this statement is, whew. They must.
I don't even know what to say about it.
I don't know. They must have had some fun writing that one. But so this was. Obviously, this is kind of in the style and format of the way Trump likes to communicate. But to me, like, this is kind of playing to the audience, and this is giving the people what they want. This kind of statement. But I want to say something about the way the stuff that I think that I see coming out of the DeSantis campaign, which I think. When you say stuff like this language here that we just went over, it's very fiery and it's somewhat over the top or a lot over the top, depending on your perspective. But there's a certain element of truth to each sentence here. There's a kernel of truth, and maybe it's a little bit of hyperbole or some extra flames and everything. But I get what's underlying each statement in this statement, each sentence in this statement. The DeSantis campaign, when they talk about things, they're the way that they don't pay attention to and they completely ignore what's actually happening in the real world sort of annoys me. Like, I see statements coming out of there talking about how, all this does is just help us build on our momentum and more people are joining our movement and all that stuff. This is happening, and they say those things at a time where anyone can see that they're behind by 50 points. Right. And when you talk about it, like you're not aware that you're way behind, and you talk like you're way ahead and not the one who's trying to play desperate catch up. I just think it looks delusional. It doesn't look in touch with reality. It's such obvious false bravado. You know what I mean? When you talk like you're the front runner, when you're down by 7 touchdowns, to me, it doesn't help you with your credibility. I don't know. Hogan, you've been
look,
for a long time.
In these campaigns, when you're down, you're trying to say that you're gaining momentum. Okay? That's what you always want to say. Whether it's true or not is a different story, but you want to try and portray that, at least to some people. And so the folks that read it, the folks that open up the headline and they see, hey, we're gaining momentum. I support Ron DeSantis. Look at this. they may think that's reality. But you're going to be hard pressed to find a voter who sees that type of comment and goes, "Oh no, I'm sure the Trump campaign's shaking in their boots here," because, as you said, it's pretty obvious he's down far.
Yeah, but I mean, when you say stuff like
to manufacture that, like to manufacture momentum, to fabricate coalescence of voters, anything else is weird. Now, again, I want to stress, Iowa's an interesting place because, as I mentioned, I've done Mike Huckabee there, I've done Rick Santorum there. Those campaigns came out of nowhere because they put in the work, they put in the time. People appreciated that. They liked the message, they liked the record, and they ended up voting for him, and they won the Iowa caucuses. Now, Cruz did as well. Cruz won it too, but he didn't go on to win the nomination. Neither did Mike Huckabee, or neither did Rick Santorum. But I say all that because for that next little bit between Iowa and New Hampshire, you have seized a lot of the headlines. It'll settle down after a couple of days. It'll be all over the news if you perform well there. So that's obviously what Ron DeSantis and his team think, is that they have built a team big enough to go ahead and try and shock the world with a win in Iowa. The difference, of course, with Mike Huckabee and Rick Santorum and Ted Cruz is that you didn't have a former president up by 55 points nationally. It's a big difference. I'm interested to see if the hand-to-hand ground game, nuts and bolts, get out the vote, make relationships with the Kim Reynolds and the Bob Vanderplots and the Steve Deaces of the world are going to catapult DeSantis from obscurity to a caucus win. I don't see it happening yet. The people I talk to on the ground are interested, like I am too, because as it gets closer and closer to Christmas, that's when the fire really starts to get hotter there. And Lord knows you need fire there in December and January because it's frigid in Iowa. Yeah. But I'm real interested to see how that goes, because again, if DeSantis has put all of his eggs into that basket and he doesn't win Iowa, then he's going to have a serious problem.
He is. Sonny, we were in Iowa together.
I was just about to say, You remember when we were in Iowa? Where did we go? I think we went, you and I went
we went to a caucus location, and I went and spoke and, tried to win hearts and minds and votes there. But
I think you did.
We won our caucus location. I'm fairly confident.
Hey, we did what we were supposed to. I stood there and I took pictures of you, and you're right. We got.
Yeah, it was awesome. That was in our army or a complete fleet of black SUVs driving all over the state. We were in one of them.
It was really fun.
Yeah, so I was going to say that, Hogan, about Iowa. Like you're saying, Iowa can be full of surprises, and I'm led to believe, I haven't been on the ground in Iowa this time around, but I'm led to believe that DeSantis has a formidable army on the ground. Of course, he has the Reynolds and the Vanderplots endorsements as well, and we'll see what those are worth. But like you said, in those races where somebody that was somewhat of a surprise won the Iowa caucuses, they didn't have a former president in the field. And I think those races, they hadn't yet really matured as a race. Like, it hadn't really settled out about who was going to eventually be the nominee yet. When Iowa came and went, the race wasn't finished yet. In this race in 2024, I feel like the polling Donald Trump's lead has matured and has had months and months and months to sort of settle in. Yeah. And he is, for a lot of purposes and intents here, he is, in fact, he has all of the trappings, basically, except for the actual office and a different airplane. He is like the incumbent president in this race because he's already been president once less than 4 years ago. So it's really, to me, it's impossible to find another scenario to compare this to, because he is a former president going through the race.
Well, you're right. There is no other scenario. So I don't know. Only time will tell. We're getting closer and closer to Iowa, though. So we'll see.
We have less than 50 days, I believe. What are we at?
It's like 48, 47? 45, 47, something like that.
So we'll
I don't know if it's 45 or not.
I mean, no one knows really what's going to happen, but DeSantis he cannot finish third, as you said. That's true.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think he will, because Nikki Haley is not going to make a dent in his support there in Iowa. And a lot of people are making much of her endorsement or apparatus she's received from the Koch group
I mean, that'll help, but
it'll help. The problem is
maker?
in this day and age too, support from the Koch Foundation is not to be praised. It kind of turns you into a pariah because the GOP is not enamored by globalists. They're not enamored by corporatists. And Nikki has clearly tried to seize a neocon wing that a lot, if not a vast majority of the Republican voter does not want, does not approve of. And so it's interesting for her because I don't think she would win New Hampshire because Christie's made such a play there too. I still think Trump wins New Hampshire, and I know he's going to win South Carolina because Nikki, she didn't do a good job kind of keeping those groups together. She's got some diehards there. Sure, she was a former governor. That makes sense, but I still think Trump wins. But I just don't see that as being such a big deal anymore, other than the fact that she will now have a lot more money and she can do a lot more little bells and whistles to try and raise her name ID. But as she begins to surpass DeSantis, it still looks like a bunch of people butting heads for second place. That's just what it looks like.
Yeah.
Well, I think too.
Go ahead, Sonny. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, if you look at this just surface level about the support for each candidate, just look at the attendance that they draw at each event that they have. I mean, I've never seen a DeSantis event with more than, 100 people there, maybe more. But when President Trump comes to a town, the place is packed out. You can't even get in the door. So, I mean, you can look at polling, throw out polling. If you say you don't trust the polls, whatever. He's so far ahead in the polls, I don't know how there can be, any question about that. But just look at how many people come out just to see this man versus how many people come out to see Nikki Haley in her own state. I think that speaks for itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is probably an indicator of some kind. The polling that exists, it varies somewhat, but the clear indicator is that this is Trump's to lose. That's been going on for a long time. It's just Iowa is the unknown. There's a lot riding on it for DeSantis. He's got to finish second. He's got to finish a strong second.
Yeah, agreed.
So
that's what we'll find out.
Yeah. So politics never seeps into everywhere. It's like water, right? It seeks the lowest level. Isn't that what water does?
Something like that. I thought water just gets you wet, but whatever.
Well, that does that too. But so there's over the last few days, the good folks at Deadspin. Are you familiar with Deadspin?
Yes.
Yes. Fine website. So there was this kid at the Kansas City Chiefs game, NFL game. A picture of a kid surfaced on the internet, and he was wearing a full big Indian headdress. Probably you've seen this picture. And it was a photo of the kid. He had face paint on, and it was just a profile shot, so you can only see half of his face, right? And the half of his face that you could see was painted black. And the Deadspin.
You have a picture of it you can show?
The big story. Well, let's see. I have a picture of it that I think, if I can figure out how to do this for the video side, I will do that. But
most people have seen this picture.
Yeah. Let's see. There. That kid. You see him?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So that's the guy. So half his face is painted red, half of it is painted black. But you saw in the silhouette or in the profile, you could only see the black painted side. And the guy wrote a big column talking about how racist this was. It's like double racist. He's offending everybody possible. It was painted in blackface, is what the guy characterized it as, blackface. Right. And at the same time wearing a headdress, which is, of course, he claimed insulting to the Native American community. Turns out the kid was not wearing blackface. He was wearing black and red, one half red, one half black, which are among the Kansas City Chiefs colors, as you can see him there. And then also it turns out that he and his father are affiliated with an Indian tribe in that region of the country. So 0 for 2. 0 for 2. And
hold on.
Yeah.
Like Elizabeth Warren affiliated with an Indian tribe, or like really?
Well, I think he's like on the board or something like actually affiliated with the tribe, like in an official status of some sort. No, not like Elizabeth Warren. So, I mean, Have we reached? Is everything going so well in this country as far as race relations go that they have to pick on 9-year-old kids at football games to try to manufacture some kind of outrage? What's going on here?
Sonny, go.
Oh my gosh, this just is absolutely ridiculous to me that Deadspin even ran with this story to begin with. Putting this little kid through, when he goes to school now that everyone is probably just picking on him or making a big deal about it. He's definitely not living a normal life just because he dressed up in his team's colors. He was showing spirit and pride for his team, it looked like he's like on the front row there at an NFL game. I mean, how are we here? How are we here as a country where dressing up to go see your favorite football team play is racist all of a sudden? Oh, yep, Tim, that's your pulling up right now. I hope this happens for him.
They are going to sue the ever-living crap out of Deadspin, and I can't wait until it bankrupts.
Imagine that.
For this. What you're trying to do to a kid is so stupid. And what this kid was doing was supporting his team. And this is such like an elitist, pseudo-journalist, pearl-clutching, high moral ground. I know better than some football fan. When you have no idea what this kid's doing, and then you realize he's wearing black and red, you have to double down and say, "Oh no, either one is bad." Like, shut up,
right? Because the last thing this guy was going to do was admit that he was wrong.
Of course,
so he wrote this whole thing based on the profile shot of the kid where you can see only the black face paint. Yeah. He wrote a whole thing about how outrageously offensive this was, and the headdress was just strike two against the kid. And then when presented with evidence that no, in fact, he was wearing red and black face paint because he's a Kansas City Chiefs fan, a respectable journalist would say, you know what, that's what corrections are for. I retract the article. I issue a correction, issue an apology, whatever, and say I got it wrong. I based my whole column on partial information, which was a profile picture, not knowing what was on the other side of the kid's face. But no, can't do that. Can't do that. Have to double down and say, no, in fact, this might make it worse. Honest to God.
Gosh.
What is the first rule of holes, right? When you're in one, stop digging.
This guy is probably the same type of person that is like anti-Halloween because you can't dress up and it's all cultural appropriation. I mean, seriously, what would be an appropriate way for this little boy to show pride and spirit for his team? I mean, just a T-shirt, does it stop there? Is a jersey appropriating the players? Because he's not actually a football player. I mean, where does this end?
What he has to do, what this child should do, and any right-thinking person can see this, the child needs to stop being a fan of this team until they change the offensive name of the team. Obviously.
It's so dumb.
I mean, how come some teams, let me ask you this, why do some teams get off the hook and other teams have to change their names?
But did you, that's
the Redskins?
The Redskins had to change their name. The Cleveland Indians had to change their name, but the Chiefs and the Braves, so I don't think any of them should have had to change their name, first of all. But why are they so...
Isn't it more racist for them to be forced to change their name? Because they're taking away representation of a group of people having a major league team named after them. In my opinion, I think this conversation has been had 1,000 times by 1,000 people. But if Chiefs is bad, why is Cowboys okay? Right? Because I don't know.
Sure, I agree. I don't know. I mean, it's not a logical. There is no logical answer. That's why they keep asking the question, because they just want to,
I mean, look, not a lot of my sports-loving friends would ever agree to this, but like Redskins, I get why people thought that was offensive. Redskins, you're actually talking about the color of a person's skin. I get it. That one is a little bit different. But Chiefs, Indians, I mean, honestly, I don't see the point with those.
Also, did you see Dan Lebitard, another like sports guy who came out and said that it didn't matter either this guy was a Chiefs fan, didn't matter the colors or red and black. You should never do that. You can never put on red and black paint on your face. And then everyone started floating the picture of him from a year previous wearing red and black like lightning on his face. His entire face was red and black because he was like a rock star for Halloween or something like that. But he had on red and black all over his face. It was just so epic.
Gosh.
It was so
These
epic.
people. These are the worst kinds of people.
Yeah, and the leftists and all their stuff they did forever, from Joy Behar to Jimmy
Justin
Fallon,
Trudeau,
to Jimmy Kimmel, to Justin Trudeau, all wear blackface and did this, and no one cares. It's only because of the politics. It's only because of football. They go after this side of the aisle and always have. It's just stupid.
They just suck the fun out of everything.
It is dumb. I wonder, we'll find out how long it takes to assemble a lawsuit of this nature, because this happened over the last couple of days, and we will find out soon enough.
Quick.
When this kid files a lawsuit, I imagine he will be. He's getting ready right now. You saw what happened to Nick Sandman. Mm-hmm. It was an undisclosed amount from CNN and I think some other places.
I love that so much.
And it was, I think, a giant pile of money that kid got.
Good.
You know. So last thing, we're at 31 minutes now, and I don't want to keep it a little tight because it is at night while we're taping this. But I've been watching. First time I have rewatched the entirety of The Sopranos in quite some time. So have you guys? We were texting about this before. Have you guys ever seen any of it?
During and after COVID. I binged Game of Thrones for the first time. I binged The Sopranos for the first time. And I just got done with Breaking Bad.
Oh, Breaking Bad. That's another one I would bring up. Sonny, have you ever seen The Sopranos? Are you familiar with it at all?
All three of those things I have never watched.
What were Hogan, you said Sopranos, Breaking Bad, and what?
Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah, Game of Thrones. All three of those. I think those three. I love this.
Oh, God.
Sonny, this is that's the Sopranos theme song.
Oh yeah,
it was okay.
Have y'all watched Peaky Blinders?
Yeah, I like Peaky Blinders.
Okay,
I have not.
See? I was a Peaky Blinder for Halloween last year. So
really,
good for you.
That's how do you say that guy's name? Cillian Murphy.
Killian.
Killian. Cillian Murphy.
I'm pretty sure it's Killian. I think.
All right, starts with a C, so I don't know.
Yeah.
So he played Oppenheimer also in the movie, which I have not seen.
I just watched the first hour of that movie. I was a little bored.
This is off the subject, but I'm taking it this way. We need to do a podcast coming up on like Christmas movies.
Oh yeah.
I'll be bad at that too.
I enjoy your
I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just not a big movie watcher. And Christmas movies are not really my favorite.
Yeah, but some of them are just they're on all the time, and you can kind of just have them on the background, and you sort of absorb the plot and all this stuff. Like Home Alone, I bet you if pressed, I could recite most of the dialogue from Home Alone, just because it's on all the time. And my two boys just love it. They say, "Let's watch Kevin. I want to watch Kevin."
Aww.
And that's Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah.
The Lampoon movie.
Christmas Vacation.
Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, no.
One of the what? You don't like it?
I know.
Oh my God.
You're off the podcast.
Sorry.
That is one of the best ones ever.
You're
with
off the
cousin Eddie coming back to town, and
the
scene where he's emptying the septic tank from the RV into the sewer on the street. No,
yeah.
It's great.
It's not my favorite. I'm sorry. I'm more of a.
It is great.
I don't know how to describe what I am other than my attention doesn't last that long for movies and TV shows. But since we're talking about what we recently rewatched, I just rewatched Gossip Girl. And it was as good as...
I'm not familiar with that one.
Never saw it. I live it every single day.
I hope not. Yeah, you do actually.
What's it about? Give me the elevator version.
It's
about girls who gossip.
Really?
And there's this website called Gossip Girl that posts anonymous things about people. And it's basically Twitter.
It's like an online burn book from the movie.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, my wife won't watch Sopranos because it's too violent, she says.
Here's the funny part. I remember when it was out. Okay. I remember when Game of Thrones was out. And everybody's like, it's so this, it's so that. Sopranos so over the top. And I watched it, recently. So it's old now. Breaking Bad, so bad, so over the top. I watched it recently. It's not as bad as things are today. Does that make sense? In its time, it was really, really controversial, and I would see why.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays,
which one? Breaking Bad or Sopranos?
Any of them? Breaking Bad, Sopranos. They're like, wait, what? I thought it was going to be way more gory and way over the top in other ways. It just wasn't. Compared to today, I still thought it was a little over the top, but compared to today's standards, I was bracing myself for this just massive thing, and it just didn't turn out to be that way.
No, and it's not as shocking as like Pulp Fiction or something in the movie. If you've ever seen Pulp Fiction, there's a lot of like really surprising and gory violence that just sort of happens in certain scenes, and you're not expecting it. In Sopranos, most of the time, you kind of know the violence is coming.
Yeah,
there's
I'll have to watch.
It's. I think it's worth watching, Sonny. It really is. I think the best of what television can be. Maybe you don't like the subject matter or the genre, but man, is it a good show. And and the good part is it takes a long time to binge watch it because I think it's 6 seasons.
Yeah, it is.
And 13 episodes per season, and each episode is at least an hour or so.
Oh, yeah, that's another thing.
Stuff.
The hour-long episodes, they get me because I always fall asleep in the middle of it.
Yeah.
That's why
James Gandolfini as Tony Soprano is fantastic.
He's good.
Just fantastic. Anyway, I thought that would be interesting to talk about.
We got to do Christmas movies, though, next time.
I would love Christmas movies to talk about that.
I'll watch some.
And
so I can.
Here's another thing. This is my little pitch as we're like in show pitching. I want to do the top 5 sitcom characters in your mind of all time.
Wow.
Chandler from Friends.
Don't do it now.
Probably my number one. Okay. I'll just put out my number one because RIP,
Yeah, he was a good one. Frasier has to be one for me.
He was good.
Right,
That's interesting.
I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait to disclose mine later.
I would.
Okay.
I've been thinking about this now for like several years.
Yeah, some of my would go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Like Sonny, have you ever heard of the show MASH called MASH?
Yes.
You ever heard of it? How about All in the Family? Have you heard of All in the Family?
Yes. Didn't MASH have someone that wore a dress to get out?
Yes.
Or something?
Trying to get out of the army. Yes. Yeah. Corporal Max Klinger. Like halfway through.
Talk about being ahead of the times.
Yeah, I know.
It wasn't right away. At a certain point, his character's shtick became trying to convince the army that he was insane to get what was called a Section 8 discharge, to be discharged because you're mentally insane. And he did lots of different. One time he tried to eat a Jeep piece by piece to prove his insanity. But then he switched.
Who hasn't?
Then I know. Have we all? But then he switched to wearing a dress to try to get out of the army. Well, how do you think? How would that go over now?
I know. They'd be celebrated. They'd be on the front page of the website.
This was an ongoing plot point for years, I think.
That's so funny.
Anyway, that's what I think we should have a national conversation about Corporal Max Klinger.
We should.
I'm pretty sure it's time. All right. That's enough of that. Thanks, guys. I appreciate your time. This another fantastic edition. And what do you guys have planned? Do you travel for Christmas or in the end? What?
I have something exciting to report.
Go.
This is why I was late. I've just picked up a puppy to give to my little brother Eli for his birthday on Saturday as a surprise.
Wow.
Well, don't tell. What if he's a pod, Line Drive pod head?
Well, he's turning 8, so I hope he's not.
Yeah, that's our demo. That's our number one. Have you not seen the result?
Family friendly show.
That is true. But yes, it's a little husky. He's so cute.
A husky.
Oh,
wow.
Do they have huskies sometimes have different color eyes, right? One eye is brown.
No, this one's kind of boring. He's just got brown eyes. The blue-eyed ones were way more expensive, like $1,000 more. So that's a regular one. And he cried.
You gonna let him name it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna let him name it.
The puppy cried the whole way home?
Oh, screamed for 2 hours.
Yeah. They're vocal dogs.
Oh yeah.
So where does Eli know that he's
No.
getting a dog? Where is the dog then?
He's with my other brother.
Oh.
Thankfully, not here because you'd be hearing him the whole time.
Hear him cry.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, gotcha. Wow, that's exciting. And so that's coming. That's for birthday, not Christmas.
Birthday on Saturday. Yep. I'll be sure to take a video.
How exciting for
You
the
do
little
that.
fella. I'm sure. Did everybody make him promise that he's going to be the one who takes care of the dog and all that stuff?
Sure.
No, he actually has no idea because my dad is very anti-animal. So he doesn't think that he'll be getting a dog just because my dad is so against it. So it'll be a really big surprise for him.
Yeah. Well, I was going to let you in on a little secret, just in case he did promise to take care of the dog. He's not going to do that. they never do. They may promise to feed the fish / clean their room.
It's not happening.
But that ain't happening. Anyhow, all right. That was another
all right, team.
Yeah, all right, team. Good conversation. Appreciate it, guys.
Enjoyed it.
Hogan Gidley, Sonny Joy Nelson, thanks very much as always. I'm Tim Murtaugh, and this has been the Line Drive Podcast.